7 of the ChampCar iRacing series starts now. You're watching live on HJBC. We're at Barber Motorsports Park for the first solo race of the year in these cars, the Porsche and BMWs. And the weather says mostly cloudy, and there is a chance that water will fall from the sky. They're qualifying now with a 60-minute race ahead of us. David Haynes here with Devin Peters and Michael Derby to bring you live coverage of what's going to be a very, very interesting race, Devin.
Yeah, two types of GT4s out on the track today. We got the Porsches and the BMWs, just like you might see at a ChampCar Series event, though I don't know, even those clean Porsches that we see at the ChampCar track might not be quite as clean as the ones we're seeing out here today. And it's a challenging track around here at Barber on the best of days, and we're seeing it bite even in the dry. But if the forecast is any indication, like you said, I think we'll see some water on this track before the end of the night.
Yeah, the countdown you see in the top left is to the end of qualifying, and then we go racing to pay points in the ChampCar iRacing series. It's been hotly contested this year, and once again in 2024, Devin, there's some great prizes on offer.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, of course, the grand prize for our overall points winner, a hotly contested points prize this year, I must say, of 2,000 champ bucks. So whoever manages to win the overall series championship will get themselves a ride in a real champ car with that kind of prize. We also have the prize for the folks who just want to come out and have some fun. If you show up in rounds 1 to 4, 5 to 8, or 9 to 12, you can get yourself entered into a random draw for 250 champ bucks. All you have to do is complete more than 50% of the laps. And so we've got a bunch of drivers that are out here today just hoping to get their name into the draw and get a little bit lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be super competitive today. We've got, of course, 2 models of car for the drivers to choose from. At the moment, at the top of qualifying, Giovanni Romano from Canada in the BMW, DJ Alessandrini, I think I saw in a Porsche, and then Cameron Martineau is 3rd in the BMW. So they seem to be very, very evenly matched, just a matter of driver preference for the most part. And if you've got a particular driver, teammate, friend, family you want to follow along with in today's racing, HJBC.live has the live timing, and you can keep up with all of the information as far as the order, best laps, pit stop times, all that sort of stuff, because we are expecting everyone to need to make at least one pit stop in the 1-hour race coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's typical in the ChampCar series that in Sprint series at least that we'll set it up so that there's at least one stop required. But with the way the water could fall today, we could see a few different pit strategies. These cars, of course, do have both a slick tire and a wet tire. So if we get some intermittent showers here, then we could see some alternate strategies playing out, and the pit lane is always really critical in these ChampCar races too. So it'll be interesting to see just how that plays out. We'll do our best to keep on top of it, but that live timing will help you out as well.
He won last time out at Sebring. The defending champion Joshua Soto's back on the grid again, and he's 5th in qualifying at the moment, but he's parking it up. He might be done based on the weather or based on the fuel, who knows. Jared Collins is just behind him in the qualifying order at the moment in 6th, but speaks to the level of domination that Joshua Soto had in previous seasons that he hasn't been able to flex this year, except last round, where it still got very close right at the end. And he's got 4 drivers quicker than him right now in this qualifying session. Giovanni Romano, DJ Alessandrini, Cameron Martineau's already snagged a couple of wins last year and this year. And Kyle Robertson's 4th in qualifying at the moment. There's Collins trying to improve from 6th, but that tricky museum turn, those curbs, very unforgiving.
Yeah, I went out and warmed up and lapped around a little bit and found it immensely challenging, even in the dry. And so these guys are going to be working hard out here. These GT4 cars, they are meant to be gentleman driver cars, you know. So they've got all the nice little traction assists and the ABS and all that. But they're still plenty powerful, plenty quick cars to try and muscle around a track like this that requires a pretty precise line from the driver. Might be the best paint job, and I think we saw it there in the foreground, a little bit of rain falling on the track.
Yeah, there is a little bit of rain coming down. I'm not sure how many drivers are improving at the moment. You get a look at that sky and it's dark and there's more rain coming behind it. And there's only a 5-minute break in the weather between qualifying and the race starting. So if it starts to rain now, the start of the race will be wet. Everyone out on track right now is on the slick tires. They're the tire to have. It takes a bit of rain on the circuit before you need to change tires. Just a little sprinkling of rain won't do it. Needs to be sizable rain. But the weather radar that all the drivers have access to says a fair bit of rain will be coming over the next hour. When, how much, what strategy decision the drivers make, it's one more thing they've all got to think about in addition to the fuel.
Yeah, another variable, and a variable of challenge. These cars always wiggle at the best of times. They'll be wiggling today. And for those who've not had the chance to see iRacing's modeling of the rain, it is pretty detailed simulation. So driving on the regular racing line will pose you some challenges. You know, the oils and the gas that's been spilled on the line, the track having been polished down a little bit. That all makes a difference. So we'll get to see guys sort of transition into and out of the racing line, the wet racing line, as they're driving around today. Just a couple minutes to go here in qualifying.
Yeah, and I'm keeping a very keen eye. Oh, there's Giovanni Romano. He's top of qualifying at the moment, but he's spun out at the hairpin. Keeping a very keen eye on some of the sector times, because you'd think with just a little sprinkling of rain that the lap times will drop away. But if anything, I think what we're seeing is it hasn't made the track wet enough, and it has taken a little bit of track temp away along with the cloud cover. So Alessandrini's quickest lap was the last lap that put him only a 10th away from pole. Andy Kosick here in 11th had some improved sectors. There's still just a little bit of time to be had at the end here. The rain is not coming down hard enough. It's just a little sprinkling in one corner at the moment, and the cooling of the track is giving them more grip through the rest of the lap.
And we're in a little bit of a gap in the cloud cover here, so if you were going to put in your fast lap, it'd be the time to do it. 50 seconds left.
Yeah, Moses has parted it just a little bit. There's rain to the north, there's rain to the south of the circuit, but we're just in the middle. You would have expected more rain in this qualifying session based on the radar, but it's split either side of the racetrack, and everyone remains on slick tyres. There's more behind it that could hit before the race start. The checkered flag will wave in 30 seconds, and then it'll lock in the qualifying order. Trying to see if there's any big surprises of who's outside of the top 10 that should be in there. And I think the only name I see that I think maybe more's possible, Colin Lounsbury.
Oh yeah,
already a race winner this year, and he's 23rd in qualifying right now.
Yeah, 31 cars registered, 29 that have set a time so far, and Lounsbury will be looking to set a faster one. No, he won't. He hits the pit lane, and he's going to be stuck deep in the pack. Be depending on some strategy to get him through. This Alessandrini we're watching as he comes into the final turns here, turn 14. And looking pretty sharp.
His win was in the Clio Cup car, which is turbocharged and front-wheel drive, quite different from the GT4. Clearly something that suits his driving style is the front-wheel drive cars. We'll next see that Renault Clio in...
Alessandrini does it. Purple Sector 3 and a green Sector 4 puts Alessandrini to the top. Gio's still out there lapping. He's coming around turn 14 now, and he's had a quick Sector 2, a little slower in Sector 3. Not by much, 300ths. This would be nail-biter to the line.
Well, Alessandrini pipped Romano by 5,000 a second, but now Giovanni Romano pips Alessandrini by a whole 10th of a second, and Romano takes pole back after the clock had ended on his last attempt in qualifying.
Spins it with 2 to go and puts it on pole with 1 to go, or with none to go. That's well done from Alessandrini there.
Plenty of improvement happening late in this session despite the risk of rain. None for Zachary Rubin in terms of positions. but he did just set his best lap, and it was very, very close. That's everyone who was on track. There's going to be an hour on the clock, and we'll take a look at the grid in a moment, because it'll take iRacing 20 seconds just to sort it all out. We haven't officially clicked from the qualifying session into the race session. 32 drivers, 29 of them set qualifying times. A beautiful mix of BMWs and Porsches, two brands that you would see very often at the ChampCar racing tracks. And we'll see who can come away with the win after 1 hour. Round 7 of the ChampCar iRacing series. All eyes on the timing, all eyes on the skies and the weather as well. So this is the grid as they will line up on the formation lap. The front row is Giovanni Romano and DJ Alessandrini. Romano with the pole by less than 1/10 of a second, snatching it right at the end. Row 2 is Cameron Martineau and Kyle Robertson. Kevin Zhu and Josh Soto are on row 3. Zachary Rubin and Jared Collins are on row 4. And the top 10's completed by Nick Love and Dakota Knapp for Love Racing and Heartland Autosport respectively, I believe there. Ooh. Outside of the top 10 is Ryan Carwile and Andy Kosick. And then Mark Blizzard and Logan Senhauser are 13th and 14th.
And do you see it in the background?
See a little bit of it. Aaron Reed and Cameron Senhauser 15th and 16th. Bill Woods and Bowie Suen 17th and 18th there. Zach Balthazar and Steve Hermé in 20th. Like I said, 29 drivers with qualifying times in that frantic little qualifying session just then, with the threat of rain looming over them. Another Canadian in Brian Tidd is 21st. Brandon Marshall's in 22nd. From Colin Lounsbury, starting out at 23rd. Bit of a surprise for me, but a lot can happen across this hour of racing. He's ahead of Orlando Herrell, Jared Murphy, Tyler Rendell, John Mickelford, Ryan O'Connor, and Patrick Cummings, last driver with a qualifying time. Behind that was, and I think they'll be gridded in iRating order after Patrick Cummings. So Charles Kowalczyk, Bill Salen, Duncan James, perhaps, is what we'll see. It's raining, Devon. It's raining proper.
And it's the first in the ChampCar series.
I think everyone's on wet tyres except for Bill Woods and Orlando Herrell and Bill Salen. So everyone is gridded up on wet tyres except for 3 cars. You look at that rain, you look at the spray, you look at how dark it is. I want to be those drivers on the wet tyres, and they've made the right choice. Look at even the spray behind the pace car.
Yeah, I think it's a wet start, that's for sure. But it is spotty, and we're seeing seeing already the weather starting to slow down a little bit, even though the track's quite wet. We'll see what it does here.
Yeah, it's spotty but heavy. So when one of those heavy spots hits the racetrack, the track gets very wet, and it will take a long time to dry.
One of the advantages of sim racing is that when it's wet in the simulator, you don't get wet in your race suit. So at least these guys have that going for them. The challenge is all there, though. And so not only are they starting on a wet track, they're starting with cold tires on a wet track. They're going to have to be dancing around, I think, to get this thing working right. I think we've had one guy drop back to the pits. I'm trying to get a bead on who that was.
I'd rather start from pit lane on the right tyres than start in the middle of this train on the wrong tyres. Everyone gets a look now on this formation lap at what the conditions are like. You're not doing a standing start and into a surprise at turn 1. It's obvious to everyone that, oh, I need my wipers on. There's a lot of spray and it's slippery even at these speeds. And it'll be massively slippery at these speeds if you're on the wrong tyres.
Yeah, we're seeing a few folks struggling even on the pace lap on those slicks. They're coming around, though, through the famous back half of this track up towards turn 14, and we'll see how they go once the pace car gets out of the way. The rain's slackening off, but the track is plenty wet.
The green flag's going to be waiting at the start-finish line to get 1 hour of racing underway in the ChampCar iRacing series. It's a wet Barber Motorsports Park, and pole sitter Giovanni Romano wastes no time. The BMW power sends him towards turn 1. They're already battling for second and third place. Is that in? Too hot for DJ Alessandrini. It is. He's off. He's into the runoff. Cameron Martineau goes around the outside of him and into second place. The strung out field of 32 cars works its way into the race at Barber.
Well, and they're working hard in the pack, trying to keep this thing on track. There's Alessandrini off again. There's a couple cars facing the wrong way in the mid-pack. We'll get back to them. I think that's Cossack I see facing the wrong way. I got Patrick Cummings. I got Mark Blizzard. Have all had issues. We'll keep things running, though, up at the front. So we're seeing a few of the spins there. That's Blizzard facing the wrong way. He tags Cummins. And they're all doing their best through the museum corner. Alessandrini jumping curbs, making his way down the hill. And it is treacherous out there right now. Trying to get temperature in these tires in this weather is going to be such a chore.
Absolutely, it will. Thankfully, visibility seems all right, but Cameron Martineau's already hitting his element right up behind Giovanni Romano for the race lead. Look at the visibility. Wipers going. You can still see where the racetrack goes, but it is so real to racing in these conditions. Almost around to completing this lap. Romano still leads. Martineau with that big move around the outside early on. Alessandrini too bold into turn 1, even though he had the right tyres on lap 1. BMWs are looking a little more stable. We'll see if the Porsche, the mid-engine Porsche, can hit its straps once the track dries off.
Yeah, it's always tricky. Always tricky. Even the weight advantage in the Porsche giving you a little bit of a grip is still something you have to manage in these conditions, because it still wants to whip around on you when you catch it.
So it's a lap completed. Big movers in the midfield with Jared Murphy 11 spots gained, John Nicholford 10 spots gained, little bits of lapped traffic there as well. Some drivers who realised, slicks are not the way to go, and made some changes. Orlando Harrell still on slicks, is now a whole lap down. My oh my, I don't know what's going on for him there, but Martineau leads us from Alessandrini. Romano didn't enjoy that. He's back into third, and the track still looks mighty slippery. Look at Kevin Zhu. He's now coming up towards the race lead here as well.
Yeah, Harrell has found a little bit more grip on the outside of the track, and I think he was hoping that it would dry off, but it is not, and we have another big band of rain coming. This cloud getting even darker, and I can see a wall of rain approaching the track over here by turn 14. It's going to be coming down hard in just a moment. Sure enough, as they come sweeping through the corner, Cameron Martineau brave in the rain for the first among the leaders to do so. And you can see him already starting to take those rain lines. He's way off the apex, staying out of the puddles. And the spray is going to start to become a factor here as these drivers get deeper and deeper into it.
For comparison's sake on the conditions, those of you watching hjbc.live will see that, and Cameron Martineau's just set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:43, but Romano's pole time was a 1:27.9. That's how far away from ideal conditions we are. And it's not just, it looks a bit wet, you can see the spray, but where the grip is realistic. The lack of grip is realistic. Being on the right tires makes all the difference.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of drivers on the rain tires, thankfully, out there, and they are getting a workout in these conditions.
And these are the conditions where a bit of driver skill and the rain masters can make a lot of ground very quickly. This is Romano now beginning to struggle a little bit. So Kevin Zhu's all over him. Martino and Alessandrini for the race lead are getting away, and Romano's got a problem. He might have had a slowdown. He might have cut the course. He's from the pole and the lead back to 4th place now in that BMW.
Yeah, Giovanni, maybe not a name known to our regulars here, but a speedy driver nonetheless, with lots of experience in these cars, and he's struggling. Kevin Zhu, also a name that we haven't seen a lot of, but he's showing his pace. 5th place in qualifying, 3rd place as it runs, and looking pretty comfortable in that Porsche, despite the conditions.
Yeah, rain's still coming down, not appearing to lighten up too much. Some of the lap times you're seeing, I think just the drivers finding confidence in the conditions and also getting a little bit more temperature into the tyres. Even on a dry track, you worry about cold tyres at the start of the race. Well, wet tyres, they still need to get a bit of temperature into them as well, and that's helping find the grip just a couple of laps in and building pace, building confidence. And Martino and Alessandrini are now more than 5 seconds away from 3rd here. Those guys have got it all worked out in these conditions, and these are looking like the 2 drivers to beat right now.
Yeah, Gio, I think, feeling a little bit more comfortable behind someone in the second battle pack as they are trying to catch up to our lead group. You see him just off in the distance there. And it's tricky through here because there's a few corners where you'd like to compromise your line and get off the dry line, but you just need to shortcut through it basically. And you slide and slide and slide. Speaking of, that was a big moment there for Martino through the S's. Caught the car sliding on the exit. And who is that? That's
Alessandrini reaching for his wiper button and pressed the wrong one, or you think that was intentional to give the headlights a little flash?
I think he's given a little heads up. We're seeing Harold, who I think now has figured out
he knows he's on the wrong tyres, but he's still on the wrong tyres, and he's heading back into the lane for the second time.
I was hearing on the radio that he has just now learned how to put the wet tires onto the car, so that'll help him out a lot once he manages to get that thing into the pit lane.
Normally the last to pit, he's actually the first to pit, and the first to pit twice in this race, so a change of normal strategy for Orlando Herald. But these conditions is going to throw up more laps traffic for those leaders than we'd normally have. Normally it'd take a long time before they started to catch too much lap traffic, but the difference between the drivers who got it figured out and those who don't is a much wider chasm in these conditions. So you almost have a 7-second lead for Martino and DJ Alessandrini over 3rd. There's Joshua Soto in 6th. He's still a couple of seconds away on pace from what the leaders are doing.
Yeah, and Soto has historically been a dominant driver. As we see Robertson going real deep there. And it almost worked out for him, but he caught a puddle on the exit and just straight lined it right off the track. Tough stuff for him. Jared Collins passes him. Collins, another race winner, currently running 7th now. And he's going to go off track on the exit here as the rain picks up in intensity again. It is about raining sideways out there right now.
Fastest lap of the race is a 42.9, but your leader's doing a 44.5, so they're a couple of seconds away from the fastest pace now, suggesting the conditions are getting tougher and matched somewhat by the drivers. More temperature in their tyres, more confidence in the conditions, suggests that it is a lot slipperier than it was at the very, very start of the race.
Martino and Alessandrini are getting close together on the exit to the front straightaway. Martino starting to feel a little bit confident by the looks of things as they go searching for a dry line down the front straightaway. And puddles all over the surface.
Yeah, go searching for a bit of visibility. So DJ Alessandrini leads us now. This is the ChampCar iRacing Series, the sim racing competition of ChampCar Endurance Series. There are prizes on the line. There are a lot of drivers familiar with sim racing thinking, I want to go real racing, and this is one of the ways that they can get closer to doing so in the ChampCar iRacing Series. DJ Alessandrini, Cameron Martino leading the way at the moment. Different line through the hairpin at Barber Motorsports Park. and you're just looking for grip. You're looking for traction off of those corners to get you up to speed, to be able to put the more than 300 horsepower that these cars have got into forward motion.
Yeah, and for those wondering, the ChampCar iRacing Series does race in the wet and the dry. So you go out there and, you think you're going to have a nice toasty weekend, you might find yourself in the middle of a thunderstorm and you're still going to be racing.
Yeah, and the day and the night and the heat.
All
racing
that.
in all sorts. You've got to be ready for it.
Gio Romano gets a little bit of a run through the S's, looking at Kevin Zhu. Has to lift off, though, because of the spray. Definitely a factor out here.
Zach Rubin's picked up a bit of pace back there in 5th place as well. He's only about a second behind them, so he's a second in these conditions is less distance than it is in the dry as well. So he's mighty close to them and finding his stride at the moment.
Yeah, he seems really comfortable. We'll see if he's able to keep the momentum up once he gets into the spray of the drivers ahead, because that's really one of the challenges once you get close, is seeing a way past, not just finding a way past.
So all drivers are on the treaded tyres now. I'm seeing just a little break in the weather momentarily coming up, but for the next hour and a half, still expecting a bit of rain. So I don't think we're going to get anyone to slicks at any point in this race. I'll be surprised if we do. This is some of the action elsewhere through the field, because believe me, there is action everywhere all through the field. Kyle Robertson and Nick Love here. Yeah, Kyle Robertson getting ahead. And Jared Collins and Ryan Carwile are the next cars behind as well, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. Shout out to Jared Murphy back in 12th as well, gaining 13 spots so far in the top.
Yeah.
Was he also at the start of Sebring?
I'm not sure.
I feel like it might have been Jared Murphy then. We've had a decent influx of new drivers to the ChampCar iRacing Series this year as well, and even this round, round 7, some new names joining us that I don't think have come out of my mouth before. So, really
lots of growth.
To see that.
Lots of growth. Really good to see drivers coming out and getting connected to the community. Oh, and it's close at the front. Martineau almost touched the bumper of Alessandrini there. I think narrowly avoided it. There's different lines coming into play.
They're into 147s, crossing the line now. Minute 46. Compared to Cameron Martineau still has the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 42.9.
Alessandrini with an art car there. That's Martineau with an art car in second place. Yeah.
It's the Samantha Tan Racing BMW for the ST Racing Esports driver.
Ah, okay. Well, it's pretty artsy. Yeah.
You're not going to get a tan in these conditions, though.
Ooh. Over under here from Martineau.
Yeah, he tried that before, and he seemed to find traction in the middle of the corner, but not get the same exit that Alessandrini had. And we were on board with him for at one time, and you thought, is he on here? But he's just taking a different line, and it gets him close, but then he doesn't drive as well off the corner. And you're in prime position here in second to see where your opponent's finding grip and, match them or beat them. Or if you see them do something, you're like, oh, there's grip out there, I better give that a go.
And Gio looks like he's almost under a little threat until Ruben in 5th has a moment exiting the corner. And you can see here on the onboard how little visibility there is when you're trying to find your way around. Ruben peeking up the inside, but there's not a lot to do here. Oh, and has a big tank slapper. Hard to stay out of the puddles at the apexes.
Yeah, great battle here. 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Getting in with a lot of speed, but not carrying as much out. Giovanni Romano. Kevin Zhu running 3rd. Ruben getting closer in 5th. Joshua Soto just off the tail of them there in 6th place as well. Was, I think, the 3rd quickest car on track last lap. it's a very constantly changing and evolving situation, this racing surface. It'll rain for 5 minutes, and then it'll stop, and then it'll rain for 5 again, and the grip changes. The lap times change significantly.
Yeah, and
Not massively significantly, but it clearly comes and goes a couple seconds a lap.
yeah, I mean, last time by we saw guys in the 44s after seeing them in the 47s the lap before, so it's coming and going. And just when you start to think there might be a dry line developing, all of a sudden there's another cell floating overhead. Oh, and Alessandrini has to get so close to lap traffic as he goes by Bill Woods, and Martineau tries to do the same. He can't afford to give anything up.
They're still trying to cut their way through. There's a few cars that have been through pit lane now that are very close to sort of emerging in front of your race leaders. It's not a massive racetrack here at Barber Motorsports Park. It's what is that? Is that underneath 2.5 miles? Yeah, that's under 2.5 miles. And lap times, of course, in the dry were underneath 90 seconds. It's a little more in the wet, but so too is the gap between the top of the field, the middle, and the tail of the field in these conditions.
Gio Romano now getting right back up on the bumper of Kevin Zhu on the exit of 14 before checking up. And they're sticking to the right side of the track now, starting to look a little bit more confident that there might be enough grip on the racing line to stay there. Zhu dips 2 tires on the exit, and behind them, all 4 from Zach Rubin. He almost goes straight on the exit. They're all pushing hard.
So Alessandrini with the fastest lap of the race, so it dries off again, they get quicker, and then expect more rain. So this is really interesting, and it means from the driver's perspective, the grip is different lap to lap. You might go the same racing line lap to lap and find more grip this lap than you did last, and then in a couple of laps time find that some of it's eroded away again, just based on what the weather is doing. Sun's almost out now. Don't know that that'll last forever.
And a lot of lap traffic just ahead for our leaders. So Martineau and Alessandrini having to come by. Now this is Orlando Harrell. And then they got 2 more up ahead. That looks like Tyler Rendell and Charles Kowalczyk, who will be the next victims. And the weather keeps coming at this end of the track, so oftentimes they're finding themselves in this corner, which is a challenging set of corners on its own, and getting the worst of it right as they show up. Oh, and running wide is Tyler Rendell. Manages to gather it back up, get on track, and Alessandrini trying to decide between draft and line, and takes the line up the inside. Rendell runs wide again as Martineau comes by. Tough weather out there. Tough conditions.
But an amazing duel between Alessandrini and Martineau, because now almost this whole race we've seen them trading lap times, staying close, and pressing away from the whole rest of the field as well. Very adept with this wet weather driving, and got head and shoulders over 3rd, 4th, and 5th, where this battle continues. Rubin looking way closer with a chance to attack into the hairpin. No, you almost lost him in the spray there. If he can find a line that gives him good drive off any of these corners, he's right there with Romano, who was the pole sitter.
Yeah, and these guys still pushing as hard as they can, but 43s last time by. Leaders running 41.9, 41.6. So just not quite having the same pace as those guys up at the front in the rain.
A lot of personal best pace being ticked off at the moment though. So you see that rain still coming down, but the track improving for them at the moment.
Ooh. Sorry, Alessandrini just had a big lockup going into turn 14.
Joshua Soto also just went off the track. Let's have a look.
Yeah, and you can see him sideways. Yeah. And I wasn't sure he was going to gather it up. He's now on the front straight, passing some more back markers. This is Brandon C. Marshall, Bowie Suin up ahead.
Another
And you
thing that
can't.
changes in these wet conditions is the fuel consumption goes down. So with the starting fuel, they'll get deeper into the race before they need to pit. Alessandrini going right round the outside of the carousel. New fastest lap of the race for Kevin Zhu. Even though I think the lap before for Alessandrini was actually quicker than that, but he might have gone off track somewhere. Perhaps outside of turn 1, for example. And that's a spin from Rendell.
Yeah, Rendell still struggling to get to this car underneath him in the wet. One of the tricks in this car is that because it's got the traction control, you need to turn it off if you want to do one of those slick little F1 whip arounds. Get the thing pointed the right way.
Here's Ruben with the best position to attack that we've seen him for a while.
He's thinking about it. It's hard to go too wide here, but he's making a run for it. Orlando Harrell's up ahead of both of them on the line, and the two have nowhere to go. Stack up behind it. Oh, and Ruben.
No grip there for Ruben. He tried it, but it's so slick there, and he almost spun out. I saw a lot of drivers spin out there in practice when they were just trying out where's the line, where's the grip, and that tight line. You can lose the rear so easy. I think the water actually pools in part of the corner there as well.
Yeah, the little rivers of water running across the track, always a consideration. Skies overhead have cleared, though. And you're right, we've got a few minute gap here of no rain. We'll see how much the track's able to dry up. And it is the dance on the pedals out there right now. These guys, they are sweating inside the cars. I can absolutely believe it at their sim rigs today. They're sweating.
Yeah, corners that are normally no worry are now quite a bit of work. So you've got that kink on the back straight. You've got that little kink coming up the hill out of the carousel there that I think is turn 3 technically or something like that, and it's suddenly a scary moment in these conditions. Ooh. So you're on the limit of the grip far more of the lap.
And the second pack is having a big moment right now. They're going through some lap traffic. Zach Rubin now making it too wide on the exit. They were all over Charles Kowalczyk, Bowie Suin, and all three of them managed to get past on that same straightaway, but it got really, really busy for a moment there. But again, we're seeing the track dry out a little bit. We're seeing some quicker sector times. Let's see how long it lasts.
I like to watch a changing track and try to work out exactly where the crossover point is in lap time where a slick tyre could go quicker, and it seemed like off some of the practice that I saw, it's about a 1:39, and we're only sort of 3 seconds away from that, but it's a big gamble to go to a cold, slick tyre, try to keep it alive to warm it up, and then what if more rain comes? So I think you're way too much of a gamble for that. Here's Ruben looking down the inside again on Romano, but he struggled to find traction when he does get to the inside. Romano holding around the outside in a couple of places to add more grip, and they get so close through the final corner here. Traffic pulls out of the way for Kevin Zhu in third, and side by side, Romano and Ruben heading down towards turn 1 will also work their way through the traffic. From around the outside, Romano breaks deeper and he holds onto that 4th place that Ruben has just chipped away at, trying to take off him.
Ruben definitely seems to have the pace at this point, though, so he's putting a lot of pressure on Romano.
There's the corner I was talking about, up over the crest there where the car wants to get light. And now Ruben's got to the right-hand side. He's forced Romano into the less favoured position because there's more grip around the outside. That's where Ruben goes, but he goes in too hot.
He's very wide, but
and he still gets traction from there.
Yeah.
Man, it's amazing where the grip is. You thought he's gone and cooked that, but no, he found a bit of grip out there and he still got to power even though it was slippery through the middle of the corner. Now he's almost off the road, on board with 5th place Giovanni Romano.
Jumping curbs is he, but staying ahead, and that's the key at this point in the race. The leaders are now going through some lap traffic. Oh, and there's contact. Cameron Sennhauser and Cameron Martineau get together. Cameron on Cameron violence. And Cameron Martineau is going to carry on without any damage. But you see it here, the inside car just getting a little loose on the wet and has to straighten out, and they get tagged. And that's going to separate now Martineau and our leader, Alessandrini. You got to have your head on a swivel for stuff like that when the conditions are
Called
bad.
a dual cam tappet, I think. I think maybe something like that. But we got a pit call from Giovanni Romano. He's into the lane from inside of that top 5. So
is Soto.
So is Josh Soto. What are they going to do with 35 minutes to go? Is this fuel? Do they think a new set of wet tyres will give an advantage? It's clearly raining too much to go to slicks, and there's more rain coming. I don't think this is a slicks call. I think it's a fuel and maybe new set of wets situation. So Soto's up on the jacks, potentially going for a new set of wet tyres, but Romano is not doing any tyres. It's fuel only.
Well, and the other factor is go to a new set of slicks, or sorry, a new set of wets. They're going to be cold wets, right? And so, does staying on the warm wets make the difference? These are endurance compounds, generally speaking. I mean, even the softer compound. We saw Logan Sennhauser come and hit the lane last time by, and he's looking confident.
You mean Jared Collins?
Sorry, Collins. That's what I'm looking for.
So Romano and Soto, this is the field spread. They've rejoined the race in 8th and 9th place still.
Yeah. Just goes to how difficult the conditions are. Kevin Zhu and Zach Rubin are coming up to turn 14. We'll see if either of them decides to make a move. Martineau's come past the pits without entering. And so do Zhu and Rubin. Oh, who's that facing the wrong way?
Oh, it's the 64.
Looks like Dakota Knapp coming into that tricky hairpin at the bottom of the hill, spins it the wrong way. It has it parked in a difficult spot as Gio comes by in the foreground.
These drivers carry on working their way through turns 2 and 3. So Alessandrini leading now. Cameron Martineau 12 seconds behind after what we saw earlier. Kevin Zhu in 3rd. Rubin up into 4th. Pit stops for Romano and Soto, who were 5th and 6th.
Critically for Martineau, there's also 4 lapped cars between him and Alessandrini. So he'll have to navigate those as well.
True, that could be a challenge approaching the museum turn right now, where in the dry conditions you would launch all over these curbs. More of a risk to do in the wet, and we're seeing that some of the grippy part of the pavement in the wet conditions is further away from those curbs than it is the normal dry racing line. Kyle Robertson and Ryan Carwile, the new 5th and 6th after those pit stops we talked about. Carwile's on the tight line and finding more grip than you'd expect, but still a bit of a slide.
Yeah, struggling, but pushing nonetheless.
Rubin has contact with Zhu for 3rd. So these two just went door to door. They're still going door to door. There's a bit more contact, but Rubin gets through for 3rd place. And he's way ahead of Zhu now. Alessandrini pits. They're both going to pit here. Cameron Martineau looks like he's carried on.
Zhu and Rubin have gone. Sennhauser's continued. And Martineau's continued. So Alessandrini pits from the lead and leaves his 3 biggest competitors, as it is, to go to the lane. Do I see Alessandrini up on the jacks? As well as Zhu.
It's a Porsche pit party. Hey, look, even the iRacing pace car's got the wipers going. That's good.
Interestingly, Rubin doesn't get up on the jacks. Haven't seen him.
Does.
These are long stops, but they're about what we expect. Now Alessandrini's back out there, having to deal with lap traffic already. Seeing some more scheduled pit takers in the back.
Soto's going to be ahead of Rubin, who was 3rd.
Oh, and Romano. Romano's ahead of Rubin.
Yeah.
By a fair gap.
So that makes Romano sort of net 3rd here with that earlier stop.
And Rubin, remember, Rubin did take tires And I don't think Gio did.
So Kevin Zhu's dropped a couple of spots through all of this. He got past on track. Oh, and now he's off at the hairpin as well. So from third, Zhu's dropped back while everyone's pitted.
Martineau's just entered the pit lane and he's coming right behind Andy Kosick. But Kosick is tiptoeing into pit lane and has cost Martineau some time. And he raced onto the pit lane speed limiter and then passed actually on the left. I don't think he'll get penalized for that, but it was a tough pit entry for him. That'll cost him some time.
It's a tough pit entry here at the best of times, to be honest. So there's Martineau looking like he's taking fuel only right now. Expecting Alessandrini to come around and end up ahead of Martineau once again. Here is Alessandrini on track. Martineau still in his pit box. Yeah, there he is back there. So that's comfortable for Alessandrini.
Yeah, Martineau just starts rolling now, and Alessandrini is on his way out of turn number 2.
And then here comes Romano, Soto, Ruben, Zhu, a pack of cars here.
Yeah, this might end up being a 4-way battle for second before all is said and done.
And we've only had half of the race to this point, Devin. Wow.
Yeah, and it's wild up there. I got to tell you, folks, looking up and down the grid, we're seeing battles all over the place that we just can't quite get to. But guys are fighting for their lives in these conditions, trying to stay out there. So far, our biggest gainers are Jared Murphy and John Nicholford in 12th and 14th place, respectively. We're getting a little bit of them, I think. No, we're not. Who's this that we're looking at? That's Murphy in the lane just now.
About half of the field, maybe a bit over half of the field pits. There's a few other cars that we're still going to expect to see. Kyle Robertson, no?
This is Nicholford and Teed going down the front straight. Tibbs,
Canadians.
Yeah, Canadian on Canadian action. And
Canadians love purple for some reason. What am I missing? Romano loves purple. These two love purple.
I'm a big purple fan myself. It's a cultural thing. I can't tell you, but it's the royal colors.
I was about to say, is it because it's a bit royal?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Robertson and Nick Love in the pit lane now. DJ Alessandrini goes through, back into the race lead. Cameron Martineau, Giovanni Romano, Joshua Soto and Zachary Rubin will do the same.
And the conditions have already claimed a few. We've got a few drivers that have retired from the race now. I think we're up to 3.
Yeah, and a big patch of heavy rain right now. You can see it. Soto's off the road and sideways, lapping that driver who was spun outside of turn 1.
Yeah, Soto's doing everything he can to try and stay in contact with Gio, who's just up the road from him there.
77 is Brandon Marshall, so that's who they're working their way past, and the next is Aaron Reed.
Zach Rubin is diving it in too on the outside of Reed, and really on the outside, completely shortcuts the corner. Oh, and there's a little bit of contact too.
It's a slowdown for Rubin though, cutting that much of the corner. Yeah, he's still got it. He's got rid of it now. Charles Kowalczyk. Whoa, hello. Back on the road. So everyone in your top 10 has stops now.
Yeah, and so as things shake out, the running order is Alessandrini, Martineau, Romano, Soto, Rubin, Zhu. And things are spread out in that top 6. Zhu, who was right up in the battle, is now 16 seconds off the lead. 16 seconds off of Martineau. And really, it's Soto and Rubin who are the only battle inside the top 6. But then 7th through 10th, that's Robertson, Love, Carwile, and Collins. They're starting to heat things up. So we're seeing Carwile and Collins coming up on a big patch of lap traffic, complete with Nick Love in the middle of it.
So the three cars you see here are for position now. Kyle Robertson in the Drive Trainer Motorsport car, green, black and red. Nick Love, unlabeled back there. Car Wiles in the 71, which is white and black.
Oof.
And wide.
Yeah, Robertson struggling to find the braking points with Nick Love putting the pressure on from behind. Same goes for Carwell and Collins, though.
Yeah, Carwell got out of shape, rejoining the track from the grass as well. So Love making a bit of progress. Look at how sideways he gets. You just can't stay full throttle over that crest. Dry conditions, flat out, easy. But in the wet, things that aren't a corner, become a challenge. Robertson in very deep in the exit and running wide.
Yeah, pushes it too far. Lounsbury goes defensive with Robertson streaking around the outside. Robertson's going to end up with the slowdown as he shortcuts over the grass.
So there's a bit of space inside of your top six. Alessandrini leading by 13 seconds from Cameron Martineau. Then a bit of space all through the gaps. Once you get to 7th place, it's wild right now.
Yeah, it's something else out there.
Basically everyone in this shot's for position. Nick Love to Ryan Carwell, Jared Collins, Kyle Robertson, Logan Sennhauser. No, maybe not Logan Sennhauser, but Kyle Robertson and some of the others.
It's raining hard again, but it's starting to go away. We'll have another little dry patch. Oh, Martineau. Oh, man. These guys are just so loose everywhere. Martineau was wild sideways as they went over the hill, just like everyone is, it seems like.
Bit of counter steer there as well. HJBC.live has the live timing all year long for all of the ChampCar iRacing Series events. That's off the road there. And it'll tell you exactly how tough the conditions are right now. Again, pole was a 1 minute 27. The race leader is doing 1 minute 48 right now. So 21 seconds away from pole setting time in these conditions around a less than 2.5 mile road course.
Yeah, and we're keeping our eye on the battle for 7th place right now, just because it's the closest together, but there is other action on track. It looks like we're starting to see some pace again from our leaders. Last time by 48s for the top three, whereas the rest were still in the 50s. Getting a look here at Cameron Martineau as he rounds turn 14. That's not the leader ahead of him. That's Zach Balthazar, who's going to be going another lap down here. The leader, DJ Alessandrini, is actually going into turn number 1 right now. That's how big the gap is, nearly 13 seconds on track. And since getting the pressure off him, DJ has really not made a mistake, and he's just widening that lead with consistent driving right now. Only takes one, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing's easy in these conditions. There's Romano in 3rd, more than a second quicker than Martineau last lap, and only 5 seconds behind at the moment.
Yeah, if he keeps up that kind of differential, he will close it down. Josh Soto entering 4th.
Because early in the race, you thought Martineau was dropping back a little bit compared to Ruben and Zhu and...
Ruben is dropping back. Speaking of, he runs wide on the exit at 3 there.
Since the pit stops, Romano's back into 2nd, and he's got more pace than some of these drivers sort of in 4th and 5th. So Ruben's not far away from Soto now.
I think Ruben might be having a hard time switching these tires on still, because he was a 51 last time by, nearly 4 seconds slower. And again, he runs wide at the museum turn, just straight lines it. We're seeing a crash here. A crash. Or an accident. Oh, and a lazy little spin. And another one costs him.
Yeah, that's how he ended up back in 3rd, because Romano went through for 2nd place.
Oh, man. And we're seeing it on our monitors, crash next to it. And yeah, sure enough, that's second little issue for Martineau. It's really hard to keep the thing pointed the right way in these conditions.
Now he's only just ahead of Ruben and Soto, who are finding a bit of pace. Soto's found a bit of pace, that's for sure.
Soto's flying.
Yeah,
This lap he took what, 2 seconds out of Ruben in the middle sector, something like that, in the first and third sector.
Certainly looks like he's getting plenty of spray on his windscreen, and then through turn 1 you go. Immediately to the sort of left-hand side of the track, try to go wide, trying to open it up. The onboard with the kink at the top of the hill up here, I'm interested about, because it looks sketchy right here. Bit of counter steer, fair bit of counter steer. That's a brave corner in these conditions.
So confident too to be able to go over it basically flat.
He's taking a tight line there.
Yeah, no rain falling right now. We're back in one of those little gaps in the storm. And we'll see. Still 15 minutes to go in this race. Plenty left to be written. Heck, 20 minutes to go. Almost. So plenty left to be settled.
This is Joshua Soto's onboard in 5th place. I get the feeling he's done that 1 or 2 times, because there's one driver out on track who hasn't set a single clean lap. You know who that is, Devon?
Mr. Soto?
Yeah, so I wonder if he hasn't done that a couple of times.
We'll have to take a look at it, as all things. But yeah, sure enough, with 40 instant points, he's definitely pacing the track. Yeah.
I don't think it got him any closer to Zachary Rubin this lap around, though. He was right with him, and now he's a couple of car lengths further back at the end of this lap, and a couple of car lengths closer to Kevin Zhu, whose spot in is that Wonder Bread livery, or is it? Oh no, it's the Nürburg King.
Yes, the Nürburg King.
Same color palette as Wonder Bread.
Also Burger King, or as the folks would call it, I think, Hungry Jacks.
I was surprised you got that, Devin. That's a good job.
I've been hanging out with you too much is really what it is.
To be fair, it's the whole Hungry Bear thing is hard. That requires explaining, so you might know from that.
I've seen it once or twice. DJ Alessandrini still running all alone, coming up on lap traffic.
Ryan Carwile almost making with Nick Love. There's good braking down the inside, but there's good traction in the middle of the corner around the outside, so it looks like he gets ahead in the 71.
Yeah, Cullinan's diving it in there too. Nickelford is 15th.
Club, actually.
Yeah, it was not. It was Ryan Carwile running up the inside of John Nickelford, who's lapped. And who has a little moment there. But yeah, it's pretty separated. It's pretty separated. Things have been dry for a lap and a half though now. Hasn't been any rain falling.
The ebbs and flows in the race pace has been interesting, because at points we've gone out to 1 minute 48, so we're down to 1 minute 42s again. Here's your race leader, DJ Alessandrini, trying to cut his way through the traffic, of which there is plenty in these conditions.
And a big dive bomb there.
142s, while Cameron Martineau, Zachary Rubin, they're back into the 141s.
Last time by, Alessandrini found something out with a 45. Most of the rest of the front is running 47s, 48s.
You need to refresh that, Devin.
You're right, 42s. That sounds a lot better.
Yeah, what I said was factual, and I stand by it.
Yeah, mine was a couple minutes old there.
But that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's only a matter of a couple of laps, and that's the swings in, how much pace, how much grip there is out there. Like 5 seconds, 10 seconds a lap. It's insane. But I think that can be accurate to, the US South at this time of year, surely, when it's warm but raining and.
On that track wants to draw out quick, and it's not going to, by the looks of things. We have a fastest lap there from Alessandrini.
And he's just set that now.
And it is pouring rain back out on track again. So that might be the fastest one we see for a while.
No bonus points or anything for it, but if you take bragging rights, then sure. Joshua Soto is not going to take it from him the way he's going at the moment.
And the rain suddenly so hard, it's catching a few drivers out. We're seeing some spins. I've seen about 3 cars hit the grass in the last 30 seconds. They're still battling though. Nick Love is trying to hold off Ryan Carwile and Jared Collins for that 7th place.
Yeah, Nick Love's in a tiny bit of trouble with the traffic in the black Porsche there. And then Carwile in the white and black 71, and then Collins in the blue and green number 2. So Love works his way through. Now we're on board with Carwile. He's like, do I go down the inside? Do I go around the outside? Well, apparently I'm not going to go down the inside. So wet.
Got to react.
Bottom of those hills, and there's plenty of little elevation around here, places for the water to pool.
Tricky conditions. Up the inside is Jared Collins trying to push his way by Jared Murphy for a lap there. But the wider line gets the better run, and Murphy's back out in front again.
Yeah, if there's one good line, then it's really tough to pass. This is Andy Cosick and Colin Lounsbury. Cosick gets ahead of Lounsbury. Yeah. And runs it in a little wide, goes a little off-roading, but where you find grip, you find grip.
And that is a battle for position. It's a lap down, but that's 16th place that they're fighting over. And Brian Tidd and John Nicholford just up the road are for 15th and 14th, so still lots to be settled there.
We'll go ahead and catch some Canadians, perhaps.
Ooh, I think I caught the rare Josh Soto mistake on the exit of 1. Yeah, you should see if we can get a replay of him going through 1 this time. He really had to work for it. We'll watch it. In the braking zone, you can see, he already was sideways. He caught it all the way through, driving with the rear end of that Porsche, thankfully.
I reckon you'll lose the rear end of the Porsche a little earlier than the BMW. That's off-road. Cosick gets ahead of Brian Tidd. Colin Lounsbury might try as well. Colin Lounsbury's going to pull out down the inside of turn 1. So it looked like there's as much grip as there was 2 laps ago for these guys.
I'm going to give that a big old MO.
Lounsbury side by side once again with Andy Cosick.
Ooh. Tight. No contact, but it was tight.
Lounsbury gets ahead. Both of them get ahead of Brian Tidd. They're catching up to John Nicholford. Very different braking points downhill into the hairpin as well. Almost saw Brian Tidd run up the back of Andy Cosick there.
Romano's having to fight really hard with some lap traffic here. He's just going to clear it down the front straight. That was Bowie Suin and Charles Kowalczyk. And Charles Kowalczyk, you see him peeking out just because there's no visibility in the spray. And Kowalczyk's actually going to benefit here because he gets alongside Bowie Suin, because Suin couldn't see his braking markers from the rain either and runs wide on the exit. So position to Kowalczyk, even if it is 21st place. And Cameron Martineau is right behind him. Martineau trying to stay up with Gio Romano after that second spin left him behind. Let's see if Martineau is able to get this done a little bit cleaner. He's got the inside line preferred in the wet. And he gets the braking done. Slides it though at the apex. And pushed off up ahead of him is Zach Balthazar. Luckily not a factor for him. But another free position for Kowalczyk, who's really benefiting from the leaders coming through right now.
Just ever-changing weather, but the one thing that hasn't changed in the last 20-30 minutes, DJ Alessandrini has a lead that he's expanding. It's 24 seconds right now for Alessandrini over Romano. You've seen Martineau in 3rd. When he's quicker than Romano, but he's had a few more mistakes than Romano, so I think the battle's going to be on for 2nd place here. Martineau caught 1.5 seconds last lap.
Yeah, he's looking comfortable in these variable conditions right now.
Could I sell you some ringside tickets to the Battle of the Beamers?
I'm in for it. 2 heavyweights, that's for sure.
The trick is you've got to float like a butterfly, sting like a beamer. I think that's from Cars. I think I stole that from Pixar. Bit of traffic for Romano here.
It's tricky, but at least the traffic's on the line. Hard to see, though. And Romano gets some help as Sennhauser gets out of the way, and Sennhauser nearly goes around, but manages to keep it on track with just one tire touching the racing surface at the end there.
You know, for every spin we've seen 3 or 4 really good saves in these conditions.
Absolutely.
Spray is massive. We're back out to 1 minute 46s for the leaders. Martineau had a 1:44 though. So he was actually quicker than Alessandrini, quicker than Romano. Alessandrini probably just dealing with that traffic. It's non-stop right now, more than you usually have in the dry races.
Yeah, they're all spread out. There's not a lot of battling going on other than on the stopwatch, with the exception of Gio and Martineau right now. Little battle down there for 14th, 15th place, but we can check on that later. Or right now, if you want, because they were coming into turn 1 pretty close together. That's Lounsbury and Kosick. And we'll come back to them in a bit if they start to overlap.
Romano went wide off the track at the kink there, but there seems to be a little too much grip in that paved runoff, if I'm honest with you. Reminds me of 2007 or 2008, the Belgian Grand Prix, and there were paved runoff everywhere. Apparently had way more grip in those tsunami conditions. So, yeah, interesting to see. You get away with it a little easier in the wet than you do in the dry, apparently. Here's another driver who sees a battle for the podium coming and decides, I'm not going to be the one to intervene in that. And no worries for Romano and Martineau as they cross the start-finish line for what we expect to probably be 5 laps to go with the amount of time left on the clock.
Surprised to see Gio feeling confident enough to stay on the racing line while he's braking. I guess that's where he feels like the grip is right now. Last time by, they were much closer in time. Martineau pulling only 2/10. Martineau confident under braking, dives it. Oh, and there's contact, and Gio's gonna carry on. I think Martineau was a little optimistic in the braking zone there.
It's such a racing driver excuse, but Martineau really did just turn across Romano's nose there. Gio sees him coming, he's like, hey, I got to make this corner at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you are seeing like what the racing line is means something totally different in these conditions to each driver. Romano has a racing line that he's going to try to take through there. Martineau is trying to take a different line, and they've converged a little bit in the middle. In the wet, it's legitimate. In the dry, sometimes it's, you know, there's really fewer racing line options in the dry.
The two of them slowing down like that, though, has brought Zach Rubin back into the picture. He's now just 2 seconds behind, if that.
And so you've got Lounsbury and Kosick trading back and forth here, but I note that Brian Tidd just behind them had one of the shortest pit stops of anyone. So he was expecting the race to stay wet and not burn through too much fuel, or he's going to be in trouble in a couple of minutes. Alexander Rossi style.
So far, that's delivered for him. Got about 6 minutes on the clock, and it is unclear how many more laps to go with the conditions sort of varying. I'm seeing another break in the clouds after this little shower here. So we might get some of the water off the track before the end.
Oh, that's off for Lounsbury. He's gone for a bit of an adventure. It's going to join him. Oh, no.
I think they've both sort of made the same mistake. Yeah, Lounsbury gets one tire in. Tidd gets both. And the two of them end up. Yeah, you can't accelerate in the grass, especially not in the wet. And They both paid the price.
Bit waterlogged and sodden in that part of the racetrack.
I think the whole thing is, this is almost as cataclysmic as the snow race out here.
So you got Nick Love there in the black Porsche 647 ahead of Ryan Carwile in the 71, who's hopefully whacked that number in a couple places.
I've just seen another moment for someone there, but we'll keep on keeping on.
See the brake lights coming on and off for Nick Love as he tries to slow the car but also make it turn, but also not spin it out. And he gets a much wider line there and picks up the throttle way earlier. He's finding grip further off the racing line the wetter the track is. Oop.
Yeah.
It's a lap down Collins, is it? Okay, no. Now he's racing for position here. For ninth.
Yeah, there is a whole pack of folks actually stacking up deep in the pack right now. We got Stephen Hermetz in 19th place, leading a group of 4 that includes Bill Woods, Colin Lounsbury, Cameron Senhauser, the other Cameron on track. And they're all struggling out here, working hard. Brian Tidd's in there too.
Lounsbury nearly did it again.
Yeah.
Oh, he did it again.
Lounsbury, like we said off the top, hits a big puddle there at the apex. Lounsbury is a race winner, so paying the price for that 23rd qualifying position, still trying to find his way around out here.
If we conduct the driver survey at the end of this season and there's one response that says, I think every round should be in the Renault Clio, we can probably guess who sent it.
I would be curious to see how Lounsbury would do in the Clio in the wet, but I don't think that's an option just yet.
I don't know. They seem to be rolling it out to a lot of cars. So it wasn't the GT4s at the start.
Spin ahead of him.
Woods.
Yeah, Woods gets it wrong. Lazy spin at the apex, and he's out of that battle. The rest carry on. Alessandrini up ahead of them that time had a ridiculous slide over the apex. And once again.
Yeah, and only 3 minutes left on the clock. He has a lead of 23 seconds from Giovanni Romano and Cameron Martineau. A little bit further back, Zach Rubin is running in 4th, with Joshua Soto not so far behind him. Kevin Zhu seems to have dropped 15 seconds behind these guys. And then Nick Love, Ryan Carwile, Jared Collins and Kyle Robertson complete the top 10. It's pretty close here. The pace has gone back and forth between Soto and Zhu, and then this is Carwile and Collins back there as well.
This will be a significant one, points-wise. Paul Darling, our 2-time winner, isn't on the grid. Cameron Martineau running 3rd right now will be the beneficiary of that. DJ Alessandrini doesn't have a win counting yet either, so if he manages to hold it together for another lap, we'll see a shake-up here at this point in the season. Really wide there.
Now, Porsche did at one point make tractors, but the Cayman is not it. That's wide from Carwile, but again, there's grip there for some reason. You're like, oh, they've gone in too deep. Wait, no. Turn it, got to power, and shot out of there.
That's how it goes sometime.
Yeah, bud, that's how she goes. They caught up to Nick Love somewhat as well. He's in that black car next up ahead, 4 position. So 7th, 8th, 9th here. You wonder what can happen. I think Alessandrini will have just taken the white flag based on where he is, based on how much time is on the clock. I think he started the last lap.
Yeah, it keeps going back and forth.
Or maybe he hasn't. I think he's further around the laps than I thought.
Yeah,
no white flag on the start-finish line?
No white flag that I see on the start-finish line.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to make sure we look at Alessandrini at the end of this lap. Touch and go as to whether that was the start of the final lap of the race. Love and Carwile have traded that spot back and forth now. They're side by side in the end of the lap. Carwile gets down the inside of the final corner, but there's not enough grip there around the outside. These guys are just taking no white flag yet, and that's Collins spinning out.
Collins pointing the wrong way at this point in the race, not the way you want it to go. Got it just a little bit wrong on the exit of the final turn, just behind that battle.
The Australian Navy has a Collins-class submarine, and I reckon it'd be well suited to these conditions. You could see through the spray with active sonar.
Ooh, and Cameron Martineau, or Gio Romano is watching, was watching Bill Woods have the time of his life in the grass just beside him there. About 4 or 5 separate tank slappers, and I bet you Gio was wondering, is that going to come across my nose?
We could make a 4-hour highlights package of this 1-hour race.
Yes,
because
honestly.
I've just seen Bowie Suin and Brandon Marshall, as we watch this replay, that's slippery, fighting for position 3 laps down off the leader.
Yeah, and having a blast doing it, I bet. There's no fun like racing in the rain.
I sure hope so. There are battles for everyone in these conditions, and wow, so there is Alessandrini and the rest of the field having taken the white flag. We start the final lap of the race. Alessandrini 22 seconds from Romano. Romano is 6 seconds clear of Cameron Martineau. They're 8 seconds clear of Joshua Soto in 4th and Zachary Rubin, who you see here, in 5th. The battle for 4th and 5th, the closest inside of the top 10 at the moment. Oh, look at that slide from Rubin. He's going for it, trying to carry as much speed as possible, trying to put the pressure on a Joshua Soto on the final lap.
Yeah, conditions still variable out there. You never know where the traction's going to be. But you know where the leader is. And that's Alessandrini coming through the final turns here.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of traffic to see it out, and maybe he doesn't need to put these cars a lap down, but it's been rainy. It's been wet tyres, it's been slippery from start to finish, this 1-hour race from the ChampCar iRacing series at Barber. While others were spinning, DJ is winning right on cue.
And there you go, that's the checkered flag for him, flying overhead, beautifully done, beautifully held. Cameron Martineau is pushing, but it's not going to be enough. Gio Romano is going to hold on to second place as he comes around the final corner right behind Colin Lounsbury. And he'll come to the line without incident. Martineau too. Rubin and Soto are still glued together through 14. But even with Rubin diving to the inside, he's got a little bit of a run, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. That's not going to quite be it.
Super close in the battle for 4th and 5th. In the end there, Joshua Soto, a 10th of a second clear of Rubin. And you've got Kevin Zhu back in 6th. So the pole sitter Romano in the end finishing 2nd, going from sort of 1st back to 6th at one point. Good pit strategy. A spin from Martineau gets Romano back to 2nd. Carwile, the next car for position. He ended up ahead of Nick Love. And then Jared Collins had that spin that we saw off the final corner just a couple of laps ago.
And a technical hour of driving coming to a close for our final driver, Jared Collins, as he comes through the last corner.
Sometimes it's misleading. I think Kyle Robertson avoided going the lap down as well, but only just. So he will close out the top 10 from Drivetrainer Motorsports. Bunch of guys that we saw first in the ChampCar iRacing series, and now you can see at the racetracks of America. Oh no, maybe he did take the checkered flag in the ChampCar Endurance series. There's a few of them out there like that.
Yeah, always good to see people going from the virtual world to the real world, and if you can do this well, you can do damn near anything well on a racetrack, I gotta say.
Guess who's out of fuel? Brian Tidd. He's being pushed towards the checkered flag, or being pushed to the pit entry. He did run out of fuel in the 104.
So the short stop struck. Tough.
104?
104 is what he's got. Yeah, on the side of that.
Brian Tidd being pushed by... Who's the good Samaritan there?
Stephen Hermetz. Yeah.
All right. Bit of Canadian love there. Let's look at the results. Spellbinding hour of racing, wheel-to-wheel battling in the wet, in the spray, sideways at any occasion. DJ Alessandrini, most adept to the conditions, takes the win 22 seconds ahead of Giovanni Romano. Cameron Martineau completing the podium. Your top 10 is Joshua Soto, Zach Rubin, Kevin Zhu, Ryan Carwile, Nick Love, Jared Collins, and Kyle Robertson. Logan Senhauser, Aaron Reed, Jared Murphy, Andy Cosick, John Nicholford, Brian Tidd, Steve Hermitz, Cameron Senhauser, Colin Lounsbury, and Bill Woods as the top 20 there. And then Bowie Sewin, Brandon Marshall, Charles Kowalczyk, Orlando Herald, Zach Balthazar. The outright leader completed 35 laps, so you would need 18 completed laps to be scored, which means that Dakota Knapp, Ryan O'Connor, Patrick Cummings, Tyler Rendell, and Mark Blizzard are retirements. Bill Salen also a retirement, and Duncan James didn't take the start of the race.
Mark Blizzard perhaps hoping for a slightly colder day, must be said. Heck of a race, though, and a heck of a podium from our drivers, and I think we're starting to get a few of them trickling into the booth.
Yeah, we've got the podium, so let's head to that now. Cameron Martineau, third place in the end, and it was... it looked like an exciting 60 minutes for everyone.
Yeah, 100%. David, that was a tough race for me. It was a tale of like 3 races, I would say, all in one 60-minute stint.
From the driver's seat, what sense do you get of what the weather is doing? It's, I think, a bit obvious to see that everyone's still acclimatizing to racing on iRacing in the rain.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking to Giovanni and DJ about it, and I think the biggest thing is just being able to judge where your braking markers are, especially when you're behind someone, because once you start getting in within about like a second, you're basically blind from all the spray in front. So having that challenge added on top to the conditions here tonight were very, very mixed. So there were periods of no rain, there was periods of really, really heavy rain. So there were so many times when I would go into the corkscrew and all of a sudden, I'd brake at the same exact spot each time, and next thing you know, I'm missing the apex and having to take to the grass there. So I think for sure, because I've done a lot of driving in ACC and other sims, I think iRacing has definitely nailed it with having to be adaptable, having to stay on your toes and give yourself that little bit of leeway when you're around your competitors, and also with these changing conditions. It makes it really, really challenging and just an absolute blast to drive. So hopefully we got more on the calendar here soon.
Well, there's a couple of cars where the rain's possible, and we'll see what the weather brings as we travel around the circuits of the USA and internationally. We're crossing the halfway point of the year and of the championship as well, and you've taken a few wins in what's a large and increasingly competitive field, and now another podium. The drivers who finished ahead of you today, maybe less out of the championship picture, it's still a good day for you.
Absolutely. I mean, I can't be too disappointed with a podium. I know, unfortunately, Paul wasn't here because of personal reasons. So, I'm going to take it race by race here, and we'll see where we end up at the end. But I think my head's at just keep it clean for the rest of the year, and have some fun.
Yeah, we've got lots of different tracks, cars, conditions still to come, and we've seen a handful of different winners and a new one today. So we look forward to seeing more of you in the ChampCar iRacing series. And yeah, congratulations on that podium, and hopefully you find somewhere to dry out.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. I'll go find an umbrella.
Third place there for Cameron Martineau. Second place is going to be with Devon.
I'm here with Gio Romano after a wet and wild race. I think the rubber ducky about Sims sums it up. That's what you got as your picture right now.
Yeah. I think that does sum it up. I don't have to say anything else. I can just no. Yeah. Lots of water. Wet. There was a lot of water on the track. Wow. Definitely had a ton of issues at the start. The most difficult conditions are when it starts raining because the track is still rubbered in and it's really slick on the racing line. And I had no idea what I was doing at the start. I was like 10 seconds back after like the first 5-10 minutes. And then after that, it started the rubber started to wash away. And then I started to get a little more comfortable, and my pace was actually not too bad. And I kept the car pointed in the right direction and ended up with a decent finish. So, yeah.
On a celebrity drop-in here, Gio Romano, I'm surprised with your Porsche Esports Cup background. I'm surprised to see you out there in a BMW today.
You got to put the Porsche Canada at the end. You got to put Canada in there for people, so the people know it's not the same thing as the World Championship.
But do you think there was an advantage to be had in the car selection today, or just learning process for you tonight?
Yeah, I can't say on the car selection because I think I've only tried the Beamer in the wet so far. So I mean, logic would tell you that the Porsche would be better, being mid-engined and all, but I can't truthfully say because I haven't tried. But the Beamer's all right. It's definitely not like there's definitely worse cars in the wet. Go try the Ford Mustang GT3 if you want to, experience an absolute nightmare of a driving experience in the wet. But the Beamer is actually pretty well balanced. It's not bad. And I definitely, once I got comfortable with it and got in the groove, it was pretty fun.
That looked like a good race out there. You and Martineau were having some battles off and on, even a little bit of contact there. What did you think when you saw that car flying up the inside?
Well, I guess where did he come from? He told me after he just couldn't see the breaking point in the spray, which I can definitely sympathize with because I had the exact same issue while coming up while battling with other cars. The spray blocks those little number boards on the ground. You basically, you're blind, so you kind of have to just you have to be careful and brake a little early, but even then it's easy to lose your spot. So it worked out in the end for both of us. I think neither of us ended up losing any spots from that, so it's all good.
Well, congratulations on a good race and a challenging one at that. Good second place. Anyone you need to shout out tonight?
Yeah, shout out to you guys for putting this on. It's an awesome little thing you got going here, and it's a lot of fun.
Cheers. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, guys.
Keep moving our way up the podium from Cameron Martineau in third, Giovanni Romano in second, to race winner DJ Alessandrini joining us. Well, in the dry qualifying, they had just 1/10 on you, but in the wet, you've got it all worked out.
I felt like in the beginning of that race, I was not the fastest in the wet, purely just because I've never driven Barber in the wet, and I've never driven a GT4 car in the wet. So there was a little bit of a learning curve. But yeah, it drove like, I remembered at some point to turn my brake bias like way back in the wet, and that helped a lot. And then I just kind of figured out where to go and what to do, and then just kept doing that. Seems like it was good enough.
The weather coming and going there, the lap times are sort of varying, 8 seconds one way, 8 seconds the other as it dried out and then rained and then dried out. Every lap an adventure for the whole distance?
Yeah, definitely. You would have to try to gauge like, okay, all right, that puddle's there. I'm kind of have an idea of what the grip is going to be like in this corner. The chicane was a disaster when it was actually puddled up. I didn't know what to do in there. I was getting murdered by Cameron in there. He was gaining like a half a second on me in that one section alone. I just couldn't get the front end to do anything through that. So I kind of just tried to stay out of the puddles and turn it into as much of a straight line as I could, and then sometimes conveniently use the grass. But yeah, the chicane was really bad in the Porsche, but it seemed like it was the stronger car everywhere else.
I definitely, from the outsider perspective, saw the wet weather emphasizes the differences between the two cars that are otherwise very evenly matched in the dry and taking very similar racing lines in the dry.
Yeah, I think even in the wet, I think the lap times were probably close to the same, but the raceability of the Porsche, because they would get good exits, just meant that as long as I just kept getting good exits, which was easy in the Cayman, I don't know how anybody would have ever passed me.
Your first win of the season, you've raced with us in ChampCar iRacing Series a good handful of times before. Certainly seems like it also expands and magnifies the differences in the pace of the whole field. You experienced a lot more traffic than I think in a dry race.
Yeah, definitely. For the most part, everyone was actually really they were gentlemen about it. There was only a couple people who raced me into the corner when they were driving around by themselves, but I think that they weren't doing it maliciously. I think they were just kind of at the edge of their bandwidth because there was so much going on. But I would say the field, for the most part, like they did a really good job of racing their race and not really affecting other races. So kudos to the whole field.
And with a rain on the radar from start all the way through to the finish, you didn't have to do too much thinking about tire changes, compound changes, or anything like that. But it certainly adds another aspect to that pit stop that you've got to make, changing the fuel consumption. It's one more element on top of the thinking of pit strategy.
Was I the only one that took left side tires?
We saw a few other cars like briefly on the jacks, maybe taking one tire, two tires, but I didn't see it lean into a great deal of difference.
Do you know if Cameron or Giovanni did?
Not without going back and looking, I can't remember.
Gotcha. Okay, because it seemed like they were kind of close, within a spat with a traffic car, then they would be right on me or even past me. And then after the pit stops, it just seemed like they fell back very quickly. So I'm wondering if they didn't take the free tires. Guys, always take free tires. Real life or in iRacing, you take free tires.
I've seen one or two occasions where that hasn't worked, but
like at MoSport, when we found a glitch that's existed in iRacing for 8 years and nobody ever found it except us. It's fixed now. By the way, everyone, you're welcome. If you ever accidentally took right side instead of left side tires in a Miata, your game would have crashed.
That was also just a couple of days after rain tires had first come to that car as well. But yeah, that's just the kind of service that you provide to all of the iRacing members.
Yeah. I submitted the bug, and then I was told what happened is basically they changed how the scripting worked because of the rain tires. And in their testing, nobody ever changed just right sides, because why would you ever do that? Most racetracks are clockwise. And so I accidentally changed right sides, not thinking about the orientation of the track properly. And I told Paul Darling what to do, and then that's why we both crashed out of that race, is because we both took right side tires, and it literally tried to divide by 0, so we got destroyed.
Yeah, both of you got sent to the Shadow Realm. Congratulations on your race win today, DJ, and sort of schooling the rest of them, as it were. We'll see what the weather brings for ChampCar iRacing Series through the rest of the year. But great to have you in what was one of the stronger grids I think we've seen in a little bit, particularly up front there. And you showed your mettle and your adaptability.
Thanks. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the hard work putting this league on.
There we go, our podium from round 7 of the ChampCar iRacing series, a rather wet and sodden Barber, and it makes the championship still look oh so interesting with Cameron Martineau's previous race wins. Now he stands on the podium. Giovanni Romano not in championship contention, but coming through for the podium there. DJ Alessandrini, similar sort of touch and go on the championship, hasn't done as many races, and then you see some of the other contenders a little further back. We'll see what it brings for the future.
Yeah, speaking of the future, we've got some races coming up here in the ChampCar iRacing series. Our next race is going to be an endurance race on August 10th with the GR86 lapping around VIR, so it should be a good show. That'll be a Saturday race, and details forthcoming on the exact format. The next Sprint Series race will be a favorite for at least one driver in our field. That's right, we're going back to the Clio, and it's going to be at Mid-Ohio on August 28th. That's a Wednesday, and shortly before the Real World ChampCar event at both of those tracks. So good practice for anyone that's planning to get out to the Real World events as well.
The ChampCar forum, forum.champcar.org, has the iRacing section with all the information, and like you've seen, never a bad time to join us if you're a sim racer and you want to go wheel to wheel with some drivers who already have experience in the ChampCar Endurance Series, and you're looking to show them what you're made of, practice at some of the racetracks that the ChampCar Endurance Series visits, and also some old favourites like Barber or Laguna Seca or Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It's a great race today. DJ Alessandrini, Giovanni Romano, Cameron Martineau making that podium at a very, very wet Barber Motorsports Park. We'll see you in just a couple of weeks' time for that Team Enduro at VIR in the Toyota GR86, Saturday, August 10th. That's going to be great. Could be a bit of weather there as well. You've been watching on ChampCar Live and HJBC. I've been David Haynes, Devin Peters alongside me. Michael Derby brings us all of the pictures and the graphics, and we look forward to bringing you coverage of the next ChampCar iRacing Series race, August 10th.